Welcome to The Bond. So I have been anticipating sharing the second part of Adam's Falconry's adventures with you. And I have really wanted to dive deeper into how we can share the bond with nature as it pertains to birds of prey. Now, if you'll remember from last time, we covered falcons, hawks, owls, and even the occasional vulture. But with this episode, we want to dive into that captivating journey, that world of falconry, where we have this exclusive interview with Adam's Falconry and understand the depths of the academic information all the way to the vast skies where all the falcons soar. Now, if that sounds a little much to you, that's okay. Because what we need to do is understand how that human-bird connection is built, how that bond is built with these majestic birds of prey. You see, forging a bond with another creature in nature is really interesting. If you think about the windswept fields where falconers often practice to more urban places where they might be shooting off an eagle from a water reserve or a dry riverbed. Now, birds of prey can be anywhere, but they're of course much more comfortable in wild open spaces. Today in Southern California, you can learn to be a part of this legacy, this ancient practice, and unravel the mysteries of the sky in order to gain that deeper appreciation with a remarkable connection to nature. It's really a bond between birds and humans. We've been focusing in the past on a couple of birds that are very common in California, and that is the hawk and the peregrine falcon. And understanding how is that partnership formed? That is primarily to the benefit of the human, or is it to the benefit of the animal? Or sometimes it's both. How is trust built? One way is by consistency and understanding that you're there to live harmoniously together. Now you see, throughout history, humans have trained various animals to help them in the act of hunting. And even camels play a role in this. It could be camels or horses, shooting your quarry with bow and arrow as opposed to bullets. But in this case, it's using birds of prey. Whether you want to reduce your fox population or if you want to think about using falconry in a rom-com or a romantic comedy. Now see, how would falconry be used in a comedy? Can you imagine if there was really a story about that woman who was overworked and lived in the city and then eventually had to go out and leave her corporate high-end big city job to go to her childhood girlfriend's house in the country, whom she hasn't seen since college? Now, if we know the formula for some of these rom-coms, we know that the story reveals that the friend has a humble sheep farm that has fallen on hard times and she may lose it. And maybe she wants to start a side yarn spinning business with the wool that she shears from her sheep. But there's always going to be that gruff, rugged falconer who keeps to himself, but secretly is a prince and funds the local orphanage and the elderly retirement home and does all these fantastic things for the local community. And he also happens to have that passion for falconry. There's always going to be a red herring love interest that just is not understanding our main character, our heroine. It's a bad love interest, and it usually is working for an evil corporation that wants to develop the land that her friend's sheep farm happens to be on. Maybe he wants to send foxes into the country in order to cut down on the population of domestic sheep. Or maybe there's a calamity which befalls our main character, and the best friend and the falconer is able to step in, show bravery, and help use his falcon in order to get rid of those foxes, save the flock, and the fluffy white sheep and lambs. Now, does this act of heroism impress our heroine so that she falls in love with the falconer? So that her friend can go on with the yarn business and start a sweater for the whole community? Or have one sweater for each person in the community? Does she also learn to leave her city life behind and love birds like our falconer does? Well, let's say she does, and all that adversity and getting rid of the wrong guy and going with the right guy, all is because this is a falconer who has a heart for nature. Does that sound like a Hallmark movie to you? Well, it could be. And Adam's falconry, and Gia, as she explains about the hawk and the peregrine and the sharp talons and the keen eyesight and all of that, is one way that we can use our own imaginations about the role of falconry in today's modern world. Whether it's a rom-com movie or it's a group of nature that helps us embrace the natural world as a counterbalance to our office world. There are lots of different ways of referring to groups of birds. We have a flock of sheep, and we also have a convocation of eagles, or a cast of hawks, or an ire of peregrines, or what I love most, a parliament of owls, which to me evokes images of these very wise owls in their formal robes, ready to be seated in Parliament and have a wise discussion. We've had so much fun with our conversation with Adam's falconry, and we've explored the specialized hunting styles of every different type of bird of prey. We've also learned about the partnership between falconers and a companion animal, like a horse or a camel, and we've highlighted the importance of trust and communication, even if it's nonverbal. You see, birds of prey have very, very sharp eyesight. They can help spot dense color and see spectrums of light that humans cannot. So they actually enhance the capabilities that humans have once that bond is formed in nature. So from the intricate art of falconry and the timeless wisdom that's been passed down from generation to generation to today, we have become enlightened. And if you're interested in volunteering at a estuary or a preserve near you or some area like Adam's falconry, I suggest that you reach out to them in your local area, because healthy birds help build a healthy ecosystem. And until next time, we want to continue to explore the natural wonders of our world and how we can contribute, even if it's something like just taking a walk and doing some harmless bird watching, or understanding that the litter that you strew on the ground could harm somebody in the wildlife or a creature. And we want to pick up after ourselves. We want to respect the area that we're in so that we can better respect the people that we're involved with our own families, our friends, and our community. We've learned how to forge a bond between man and nature. We've learned how to seek out new opportunities in order to deepen our bond with nature. And what we want to do is appreciate the bond that unites us all.
Now, what is one of the reasons why a bird would end up at your rehab center? What brings them there in the first place?
Yeah, so unfortunately with birds of prey, I would say a lot of the time it is either a car strike or a poisoning.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of the time people don't realize that their biggest predator is actually humans. We don't mean to be, but a lot of their damage is done by hitting windows or getting hit by cars, or in this case, if you poison a rat, that rat doesn't actually pass away for about 2 or 3 days. So it's wandering outside really slow. New bird, especially a baby, that's easy prey. They eat it, they get poisoned. So now what's awful about that is that, okay, so now he's poisoned, he succumbs to that, and a vulture eats him. Now that vulture is poisoned. So this poison will actually go through the food chain, which is really unfortunate and can actually be a detriment to egg development and shell development as well. So yeah, I would say poison is probably one of the bigger detriments to these guys, unfortunately.
So what are your thoughts on cams in the nest?
I personally follow some, so I like them. And I think they're set up well enough to where they're discreet and they don't bother the nesting pair. And And I think it's extremely interesting to watch the nuances of the birds of prey, especially for the public, because a lot of people don't realize that these birds have personalities.
What do you mean by personality? You can tell the difference. This one cat likes jokes, that one doesn't?
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, I would say they're kind of like dogs, you know, so they all have their breed specific, you know, golden retriever is a golden retriever, but then each golden retriever is very specific personality.
Okay.
So kind of the same thing. So a Harris hawk is a Harris hawk, but then fox is very, you know, has his quirks, and then my other bird has his quirks. And then I like to compare falcons and hawks, kind of like cats and dogs almost. So yeah, I think that's always interesting to see the nesting cams, because then you get to know the birds, if you will. And then it's like, it's a little bit fun to get the community involved, I think, and be able to get more of a bird's eye view, I guess.
I like the bird's eye view for the bird. Now, what do you think about therapeutic benefits of the falconer? Is there anything, like if you've been through just a bad patch in your life, would you recommend working with birds as a way of therapy, or?
This is an interesting question. I have not actually thought about too much. I call them my emotional support birds, just because the bond that we have is so much deeper than any other animal I've ever encountered, and it's because it has to be. It's not emotional, it's trust-based. So there's no love, there's no anything, no human emotions involved, maybe on my side at least. I do love these birds. But mutually, it's all trust and respect. So taking away that emotional side from it and making it purely, strictly primal, wild, whatever you want to call it, I think is really incredible to be able to have something be so interested, well, tolerate you, I should say. But I don't know. I guess it depends. Therapy, it depends how you need it, I think. A lot of the time volunteering at the rehab center was really, really cool. I got to step away from outside life, dive into the birds, conservation aspect, and truly the thing I love, which was the medical side of things. And then there's some people that, like, I mean, I'll walk around with these guys in the morning and just kind of relax, you know? So it's kind of like walking your dog.
So it is therapeutic for you.
Totally, yeah. So I guess it definitely depends who you ask and kind of what you're doing with them. But I would say, yeah.
Sort of it takes you out of that busy, stressful life and lets you bond with nature, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually have to take yourself out because they are wild animals. And just like working with a horse, you know, they're going to sense that energy from you if you're stressed out, angry, or, you know, whatever it is, crazy environment maybe. And so with that, you have to step back and really be there for the animal. Nothing else matters at that point.
So let me ask you this. If a city dweller who knows nothing about wildlife or birds or anything, maybe they saw a parakeet once, how would you get them interested and engaged and excited about the art of working? Thank you. That was very polite of you.
Well, I think one thing, mainly,
Very well managed.
he is such a good boy. I think coming out to the public events like this is actually a great way to kind of introduce people to it. Because at first it can be a little bit intimidating to maybe want to step into a bird field, if you will, whether that be volunteering or even doing falconry. It's kind of hard to find your way sometimes. So doing public events like this is always nice because you get that bit of education in, and then people get to see the birds in real life and up close. And then it's like, hey, this is actually really cool. Or I've gotten a lot of people saying, you know, I want to do this forever. And then, you know, now I might start because I actually got to see him. I got to talk to you and figure out the whole process. So I think that's really cool. And then, I don't know, any type of education I think is really ideal, because then that takes away the misconceptions and gives people facts. And then they start learning about stuff like the poisonings and things like that, which is kind of just for the greater good of conservation, I feel.
So it takes away their fear, their misconceptions, and it also helps them appreciate the place that the bird has in the ecology.
Yes, I feel like that would be a perfect way to kind of wrap it up in that sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Why, thank you. Have you ever had to calm down a bird that seemed agitated by something?
Yes, so actually great example. You saw he got a little nervous with this. I put that hood on. Now he's fine. Yeah, so, and especially these guys, you know, they don't know what this banner is, so that might be a little spooky. So I actually think working with horses has helped me with that, because I'm able to look at things a little bit more better from a bird's perspective, if you will. So, say he's getting anxious about something, it's like, oh, okay, well, no wonder there's a dog and a flag and, big loud noises or something. And you can kind of mitigate any issues that you have accordingly. Especially with falconry, I think hoods are one of the most important things. A lot of people that don't know about them think it might be harmful to the bird, but it's probably one of the best things that we have for the bird, because we do have to remember they're still wild, and lots of colors and people, that can be a little spooky for them.
So tell me about this peregrine. First of all, he's got a fabulous hat.
Yes. He does look very good on him, I would say. Peregrine falcons, you can tell he is a little bit smaller, different species than the Harris hawk, of course. And his feet are actually a little bit different as well. They're a little bit more lanky and long toes, because they have different hunting styles.
And their claws are not as rounded.
Not as rounded, yeah. So with a hawk, for example, they're actually using their feet to crush their prey.
Oh, so they use those round things to actually crush the prey
so
and pick it up.
Squeeze it in order to.
So I thought it was just picking it up.
Yeah. So also that also is used for that, but that is how they get their prey to succumb. So they're able to eat them. And with this guy, he'll be diving at his prey midair. So he'll get them with impact. So he curls these toes up, gives them a nice little punch, and peregrine falcons can actually fly at about 247 miles an hour when they're stooping towards their prey. So pretty incredible.
And he does it all with his brass knuckles.
He does, yes, he sure does. And you'll notice something a little different as well as their wing shape. So with the hawk, a little bit more broad wings, better for soaring. And then these guys, very, very long pointed wings. And so those are better for diving mostly, hence different hunting styles. So
that's really interesting. So what is another difference between the two birds? Do they have different personalities?
Yeah, I would say so. Different temperaments, kind of like how the dogs have different temperaments. That's always easy to relate to. Sort of similar, and especially depending on what they do for work. Our hawk helps us with the pest control and abatement side. This guy just will hunt most of the time, so they're going to act a little differently depending on that as well. Also depends on just kind of their style too. So this guy can hunt. Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
So he can hunt, but he hunts in a different style. So we're talking about what might be off camera is a hawk versus a peregrine.
Yes.
Okay. And what other birds of prey have you worked with? Have you worked with eagles?
Yeah. So I haven't done a lot of falconry work with eagles. I've done a lot of rehabilitation work with them. So a little bit different. Really cool though. I love that so much. I knew they were big birds, but I didn't realize how large they were exactly. And I would say a bald eagle is about 10 pounds, give or take. And they stand yay big on me up to my.
So it goes up to a bald eagle can go up to your waist or up to your thigh?
My waist, give or take, depending on if it's male or female.
And if it's 10 pounds, you're holding that 10 pounds, you have to hold it up, right? You can't just let your arm relax. Can you have them rest on your shoulder like a pirate with a parrot?
You probably don't want that with a bird of prey. Some birds, I'm sure, are able to, but especially with talons of an eagle, the gauntlets that we have for those actually go all the way up. Yeah, just in case, because those talons are no joke. So we definitely want to be careful with those guys. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any other parting words of advice for people that might want to get interested in falconry or learn about how they can get trained or anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely recommend just doing your research because the husbandry of these animals is a lot different than any other bird or any other animal. They do eat live prey. The way you take care of them is very different. You got to take them out every day. We fly them, hunt them, train them, everything like that. But yeah, I would say mainly doing the research. Fish and Wildlife has great resources.
The California Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Correct, yes, that one. And then California Hawking Club as well is a good resource. Just kind of get started and see if you're interested. I know it is really cool to have these animals, and a lot of people do want to have them, but taking care of them is a whole different ballpark.
So you're going to learn about the responsibility of your place in nature with dealing with wildlife. Respect the wildlife.
Correct, yes. These guys are definitely in charge. You're kind of just living in their world, so.
Now, what if somebody just wanted to be around them for a day? They wanted it to be like a social event.
Yeah, so we do offer falconry experiences, educational talks and whatnot as well, and some volunteer opportunities too, just depending. A little itchy. And so, yeah, I would just look for Adams Falconry is personally the company I work for. We're down in San Juan Capistrano. And yeah, so you can totally sign up with us to do a falconry experience. These birds can fly to you. You get to learn about a couple other birds of prey that we have as well, and also see our owl. But yeah, I think falconry is amazing. It's an incredible sport to get into, and especially for people who are serious about it, I think it's definitely worth the time and effort for sure.
Just out of curiosity, why is an owl an advanced master falconry situation? I can understand an eagle, but why an owl? Aren't they wise?
Yeah, they're just very different animals. They tend to be a little bit more nocturnal as well, and just kind of what you can do with them is a little different too. Hunting might be a little different, especially if you are hunting at night instead.
Can you give me an example
Of
how the hunting is different with an owl?
Oh, yes, yeah, sorry. Of course I can. So owls actually tend to use more of their hearing for hunting rather than their sight. They do still use sight, and that's why their eyes are much lighter than other birds of prey, because they're actually able to receive more light that way, which is interesting. Yeah, I actually learned that a few months ago, which is really cool. So I'll share that with you.
Thank you.
And so with owls, they'll use their hearing for hunting, and their ears are just slightly off-centered, so they're able to hear different frequencies. So you might not even be able to hear what he's trying to go after. So a lot of the time, owls are used for educational purposes, and they're either rehabilitated or something like that. But it's definitely possible to go out and hunt with them.
Well, thank you so much, Gia. I really appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge with falconry. We have been so privileged with being able to talk with Gia and two of her favorite birds, a hawk and a peregrine from Adams Falconry, and learning a better way that people can bond with nature. See you next time.
Rigattatene likum. So we've had a wonderful time chatting with Gia at Adams Falconry, and we've been so pleased that she's shared her knowledge with us. And I am so happy that you've been able to join me in this wonderful journey of dealing with falconers and highlighting the importance of trust and communication between hawks, peregrines, people, and wildlife in general. We want to appreciate all of the skills that the wild creatures have that complements human skills, so that together, when we harness it and build that trust bond, we can be more effective and help our natural environment. So I want to thank you so much for joining me and helping me understand better this fascinating world of predators and birds of prey and how they can actually help us be better people, to build characters like trust, patience, perseverance, and consistency. And so I really urge you to volunteer and see if maybe that is something that helps you welcome the world of nature into your urban, suburban, or city lifestyle. So thank you so much for joining me, and until we bond again.